The purpose of these lessons is to show you the logic behind the most basic Chinese characters, beginning with the simplest pictograms, and later combining these elements to create more complex characters. There are 5 characters in today's lesson, the third installment introducing characters based on feng in lesson 122. But first, let's review the character hu from lesson 46, depicting a single panel of the double door men. This single door represented a family's living quarters. This becomes important when describing ancient Chinese family homes with a courtyard at the center. This is where our first new character enters the picture. It's composed of hu with feng underneath. Pronounced second tone, fang. You'll recall from lesson 122 that our base character, feng, was applied to the various tribes to the north, south, east, and west of the state of Shang 3,500 years ago. Today's new character, fang, originally designated the north, south, east, and west wings of large Chinese family homes to reflect a strict Confucian hierarchy. The main north house, or zhengfang, was reserved for the head of the family and the grandparents. The east wing, dongfang, was the second best position and typically reserved for the eldest son and his family. The west wing, xifang, housed younger sons and unmarried daughters, or served as kitchens and guest areas. The south wing, nanfang, received less sunlight, and so was used for servants, guests, or family gatherings. Probably from this detailed breakdown of separate living areas came the idea that fang applies to side rooms or rooms off a main hallway, as in shu fang for a private study in one's home. 她可以一个人关在书房里好几个钟头. She can lock herself in the study for hours on end. 我坐在书房里为下一个月的工作做出规划. I sat in my study planning the work for the coming month. The most common term for a room in Mandarin is 房间. 你们两个的房间是相通着的. Your 2 rooms are joined. 儿子在房间里待了几个小时不肯出来. Their son stayed in his room for hours, refusing to come out. 生了宝宝，我家人口增加，房间不够使用了. With the birth of a baby, our household grew to the point where there were not enough rooms. A special usage of fang refers to what occurs in the privacy of one's bedroom, that is, sexual relations, known by the euphemism 房事. To have sexual intercourse is politely rendered as 行房 or 行房事. 男女之间，房事当然是重要的事. Between men and women, sexual intimacy is naturally an important issue. 你们行房时有没有避孕? Do you use contraception during intercourse? Fang can also refer to a compartmentalized building or structure, as one might find in a factory. 我们的厂房现在有5000多平方米. Our factory premises currently cover more than 5,000 square meters. Now we have the most common term for a house, 房子. Due to our limited vocabulary up to this point in these lessons, I've been using 屋子 instead, but the 2 terms are used differently by Mandarin speakers. As I've just demonstrated, fang started out as living quarters, hu, positioned to the north, south, east, and west, feng, of a central courtyard in ancient Chinese family homes. It's the usual colloquial term for a house in modern Mandarin. 我们房子的后门通向田野. The back door of our house opens onto a field. 买这个房子太多问题，你上当了. This house you bought has too many things wrong with it. You were conned. 要是你不救救急，他就没有能力买房子. If you don't come to the rescue, he won't be able to afford a house. Now let's review the character yu from lesson 20, which is a pictogram of a thatched roof covering an underground space protected from strong winds. This gives us a glimpse of how some early Chinese built their houses, with thatching, or sod, over a pit in the ground. Aside from being a common Chinese surname, yu is no longer used in reference to houses, serving instead as the phonetic element in other characters. You see on our next review slide that wu is composed of a layer of sod, covering an arrow, shi, that has come to rest planted firmly in the ground. That same arrow found in shi, meaning a room for a specific purpose, such as for meetings, teaching, bathing, and sleeping. Wu, however, began as a dwelling with a sod roof, meaning that wuzi is the more traditional term for a house, found more often in literature than in speech. In combination, wu also refers to parts of that house, such as wuding for the roof or wuzhu for the owner. The character fang is not commonly used in either of those expressions. 工人把新水塔固定在屋顶上. Workers secured the new water tank to the roof. 因为丢了钥匙，屋主不得不破门而入. Because he'd lost the keys, the homeowner had no choice but to break in. Notice the idiom 破门而入, meaning to break into a house. Then we have fang and wu combined for clarity. Fang wu, resulting in a slightly more formal term for premises or houses in general, especially when applied to real estate sales, bank loans, and property taxes. 现在的房屋都有电照明. All modern housing has electric lighting. 月光下，房屋像是白森森的人骨. The houses resembled stark white human bones in the moonlight. The addition of sen sen gives a feeling of something dark or obscure, literally deep in the forest, as we saw before in in sen sen da, meaning gloomy. 火从工厂波及到小镇其他的房屋. The fire spread from the factory to other houses in the town. 平房 is the term for spacious, single-story houses, especially common at vacation spots or in retirement communities because there are no stairs to climb. 平房 is often translated as bungalow or cottage in English. 平房本来就没有上层的. Bungalows never have an upper floor. 小镇里的平房屋顶上有一层白雪. The rooftops of the cottages in the town were covered by a layer of snow. As I mentioned way back in lesson 9, presumably because the sun rises in the eastern sky, east, dong, is considered by the Chinese to be the most important of the 4 cardinal points, assigning to it the greatest of all mythical creatures in Chinese astrology, the dragon. And since the dragon is such an important creature, dong is extended to refer to important people, such as the host at a formal dinner, as in the sentence, 我今天做东, I'm treating today, or I'm hosting today's gathering. Another important person is a landlord, or 房东。钥匙有没有还给房东？ Did you return the keys to the landlord? 好像房东大都是这个样子。It seems most landlords are like that. On the subject of houses, I decided to add a new character often found with 房子. But first, we should review its component parts. Characters that we've already learned, beginning with 去 from lesson 11, meaning to go out of one's cave dwelling. Another component is the character min from lesson 87, depicting a type of pot or container. This new character was originally a pictograph of a pot and its cover, pronounced second tone, 和. What appears to be 去 is actually the totally unrelated drawing of a woven wicker cover for the pot below it. It's quite rare in its original sense of coming together like a pot and lid, and so was subsequently borrowed in classical Chinese to mean why or how, very similar in meaning to another 和 that we saw in lesson 23. Today, 和 serves as both phonetic and semantic element in our new character with the grass radical 草. Pronounced fourth tone 盖. Keep in mind that H and G sounds are phonetically related. Thus, 和 ge 盖. Wicker, a plant in the grass family, was added to distinguish the original meaning of covering a container from the borrowed sense of why or how. This idea of covering a pot was extended to refer to covering or hiding anything, and eventually to completing the construction of a house by adding the roof, or in other words, building a house. 他用棉被把头盖起来. He covered his head with a blanket. 水煮开了，把锅盖拿起来. When the water boils, remove the lid from the pot. 你照相机的盖子没有打开来. You haven't removed the cover from your camera lens. 我们找了好久，才找到盖房子的好地方. We searched for a long time before finding a good spot to build a house. 关火后，依然盖着盖子10分钟后，再把肉取出来. After turning off the heat, leave the lid on for 10 minutes before taking the meat out. Notice that 依然 means still, as before, or as usual. In other words, keep the lid on as before. Knowing the original sense of 盖, to cover something, we can now understand a new phrase, 盖世, meaning unparalleled, matchless, or peerless, literally completely covering or including a generation, and a new idiom in which it appears, 盖世奇才, for a genius of extraordinary talent. 他是当时代的盖世奇才. He was the peerless genius of his time. Today's second character, based on 方, pairs the woman or female radical 女 with 方 to create second tone 防, originally meaning to harm or injure, and later expanding to mean hinder, impede, or obstruct. In Lesson 121, we learned that Fang Guo were the enemy tribes to the north, south, east, and west, completely surrounding the ancient state of Shang, giving Fang the extended sense of side by side, or next to. In this new character, Fang serves as both phonetic and semantic element, implying that the female sex is a hindrance and a distraction to men, impeding their progress. In Chinese etymology, it would seem that women just can't catch a break, because the female radical appears in many characters having unsavory connotations. Be that as it may, Fang is particularly useful in three expressions, the first of which is a question, 何妨? Or 又何妨? Literally, what's the harm in that? But usually translated as why not in English. 你何妨不出国念书呢? Why don't you study abroad? 这么好的景物，多拍点照又何妨? With scenery this beautiful, why don't you take more photos? 事情已到了这个地步，说出真相又何妨? Things have come to this point. Why not tell the truth? 你平常吃太多肉，今天来点素食又何妨? You usually eat too much meat. Go vegetarian today for a change. 我们已等了这么久，再等几分钟又何妨? We've already waited this long. What's a few more minutes? 你就大方的让男友跟朋友出国玩，又何妨? What's wrong with generously letting your boyfriend travel abroad with his friends? The second phrase is 不妨, meaning literally, there's no harm in doing whatever is about to be proposed. English might also translate this phrase as, you might as well, or perhaps you could do this. 不妨 usually appears at the beginning of a sentence to offer a suggestion in response to what was just said. 不妨把开会时间往后挪. Perhaps we could postpone the meeting. 你不妨早一点面对这个问题. You might as well face this issue sooner rather than later. 你们不妨利用等待的时间看点书. You might as well use this waiting time to read a book. 要是你想要我为你求情，你不妨直说. If you want me to put in a good word for you, why not just say so? 没有人要接这份工作，不妨让你表哥去吧. Since no one wants this job, perhaps your cousin could take it. 他好像有一点不开心，你不妨打电话给他关心一下. He seems a bit down. Why not give him a call and check in on him? Based on this sense of there's no harm is another expression, 不妨事, meaning 没关系. 这点小破皮不妨事儿. This minor scrape is no big deal. Literally, it doesn't prevent you doing anything, or there's no harm in it. The third common phrase with 防 is another negative expression, 无防, which is often confused with 不防. As I just mentioned, 不防 comes before offering a suggestion, while 无防 or 也无防 tends to be added at the end of a sentence as a sort of afterthought, meaning it doesn't matter or it's no big deal. Compare these two sentences. 你不妨打个电话给他. Why not give him a call? In this example, I'm actively encouraging you to do this, hoping you'll follow through. 你打个电话给他也无妨. If you want, you can give him a call. In other words, you decide whether or not to call him. It makes no difference to me either way. Here are more examples of 无妨. 这样也无妨. That's fine with me. 多一个人也无妨。One more person won't hurt. 有什么好的见解，你无妨说说。If you have any good ideas, feel free to share them. 我想再等几天也无妨，没什么大不了。I don't mind waiting a few more days. It's no big deal. Remember that 大不了 literally says it cannot become greater than this. If 大不了 appears at the beginning of a sentence, it means if worst comes to worst. If 大不了 comes at the end, it usually translates literally as that's as big as it can get. Or in more natural English, it's nothing serious, or it's no big deal. 他可能救不了急，可是求他一下倒也无妨。He might not be able to help out, but it wouldn't hurt to ask him. 若这书对你有用，就留下；没用，丢了也无妨。If you find the book useful, keep it. If not, just throw it away. 我从来不相信看手相，可是来了，看一下也无妨。I've never put much stock in palm reading, but since I'm here, I'll give it a try. 在家里说，当然无妨，只怕在外面，说着无心，听着有意。Within the family, it's okay to say that, but in public, I worry that your words might cause offense. Notice the 8-character idiom, 说着无心，听着有意, which literally translates as, the speaker means no harm, while the listener takes offense. 男女生几乎都认为，要是有机会，来个一夜情也无妨。If given the chance, nearly all boys and girls feel a one-night stand is no big deal. You'll notice I've introduced a new character, the character for night, 夜, which I'm adding in this lesson because there's no way to express a one-night stand without it. Besides, both day and night are very basic words in any language. But, as always, I prefer to introduce new characters by breaking them into their component parts. So that means we need to review a previous character, 甲, from lesson 11, because 夜 has the same root. In the character 甲, we see 大, a man with outstretched arms, being held by two other people who are apparently supporting him, giving us such varied meanings as to be wedged or sandwiched between two things, or to pinch, squeeze, or pick up food using chopsticks. So, our next character related to 甲 is fourth tone 一, which uses two short strokes to indicate the man's underarm area. Unsurprisingly, 一 originally referred to the armpits, but was soon borrowed to indicate a symmetrical relationship, or two matching characteristics, as in 一古,一今, both ancient and modern. In English, for example, we often say on one hand and later add on the other hand to show a contrast. Chinese does something similar with the right hand, 右, but instead of a contrast, 右 indicates an addition. For example, 又高,又大, both tall and large. In other words, 一 is a more formal way to say 又 or 也, meaning also or too. 要是你能宽恕他，我亦能放他一马. If you can forgive him, I can let him off the hook too. The idiom 放他一马, to give someone a break or cut them some slack. 他很有成就，他的母亲亦是背后的动力。He is highly accomplished, with his mother also being the driving force behind his success. 你得找出最重要的，对工作如此，对情人亦是如此。You must figure out what matters most in work and in love. The expression 亦然 means also, too, similarly, or alike, which would be rendered as 也一样 in colloquial speech. 生物都要活下去，动物如此，人亦然。All living things want to survive, animals and humans alike. 我不想去那个无聊的派对。我亦然。I don't want to go to that boring party. Neither do I. 了解一个人，要看他的过去；了解一个国家，亦然。To understand a person, look at his or her past. The same goes for a nation. An extension of 亦然 is the expression 反之亦然, meaning the opposite is also true, or vice versa in English, or I should say in Latin. 对国家有利的，对我们的机构也有利，反之亦然。What benefits the country benefits our organization, and the reverse is also true. 你想要找到好男人，你就要成为好女人，反之亦然。If you want to find a good man, you must become a good woman, and vice versa. Now comes our final character, fourth tone 夜, depicting a man with exposed underarms, 一, serving as the phonetic, plus a crescent moon, 细, under one arm. 他日夜在想这个问题。He pondered this question day and night. 影迷日夜等待，就为了见那位明星一面。Fans waited day and night just to catch a glimpse of that star. 半夜 is the way to say in the middle of the night. 有点怀念跟你半夜溜出去的那些日子。I kind of miss the days when we'd sneak out together in the middle of the night. 我女儿玩手机玩到半夜，要我怎么办呢？ My daughter plays on her phone until past midnight. What am I supposed to do? 夜间 means at night, which may include the wee hours of the morning. 这种地方人少，夜间出门必须小心。In such sparsely populated areas, you have to be careful when going out at night. 我父亲时常需要工作到夜间2、3点。My father often has to work until 2 or 3 in the morning. Notice that English naturally changes night to morning in this example. 夜间行走，跟着星星，就能辨别出东西南北。By following the stars when walking at night, you can determine the different directions. As a cultural aside, because the sun rises in the eastern sky, east is considered by the Chinese to be the most important of the 4 cardinal points, listing them as east, west, south, north, as in this example, whereas English speakers would naturally list them as north, south, east, west. 一夜之间 is the best translation for English overnight. 一本小说 让这位作家在一夜之间成名。One novel made this author famous overnight. 出事之后，那种名车一夜之间就失宠了。After that incident, those luxury cars rapidly fell out of favor. 那不是小过失，他的生意一夜之间崩解了。That wasn't a minor mistake. His business collapsed in short order. 你不可能在一夜之间成为行家，得一步一步的来。You can't become an expert overnight. You have to take it one step at a time. To spend the night is 过夜。看起来我们不得不在这里过夜了。Looks like we'll have to spend the night here. 烦恼就像煮过的食物一样，不要过夜。Worries are like cooked food. Don't let them linger overnight. 我们乱叫没用，就认命在这个林子里过夜。Our shouting was useless, so we resigned ourselves to spending the night in the forest. 班机停飞，我们要么在候机厅过夜，要么就另想办法。With the flight cancelled, we either spend the night in the waiting area or find another solution. Notice the construction 要么to express English either or. A night view is 夜景。我们开车到山顶看夜景怎么样？ What say we drive up to the mountaintop and take in the night view? 要是来得及的话，我还是想看看北京的夜景。If there is time, I'd still like to see Beijing by night. Nightlife translates directly as 夜生活。有人说，东京的夜生活是全球花样最多。Some say Tokyo offers the most diverse nightlife in the world. 你认为这里的夜生活无趣，你就少待几天。If you find the nightlife here too dull, just cut short your visit by a few days. 夜班 is the way to express night shift work. 怀孕7个月以上的女员工不得上夜班。Female employees more than 7 months pregnant are not allowed to work the night shift. 我的薪水不够用，只好再找一个夜班警卫的工作。My salary isn't enough, so I had to find another job as a night security guard. 夜班 is added to trains and airplanes to express the idea of a night train or overnight flight. 要是不介意坐夜班火车，你早上就可以到东京。If you don't mind taking the night train, you can be in Tokyo by morning. 我可以再待会儿，只要能赶着搭上夜班飞机就行。I can stay a little longer, as long as I manage to catch the night flight. To work late into the night, or what students might say when cramming for a test, to pull an all-nighter, is rendered as 开夜车。从事我们这一行，开夜车是平常的事。In our line of work, pulling all-nighters is just part of the routine. People whose circadian clock favors high activity in the evenings is called a night owl, which is what Mandarin speakers also call it, because a night cat, 夜猫子, is a colloquial expression in Chinese for an owl. 上夜班没有问题，因为我就是夜猫子。Working nights is no problem. I'm a night owl myself. 夜猫子们要多为室友着想，你们是像一家人。 You night owls should be considerate of your roommates. You're like family. Here is our color chart with today's 5 characters. 房 盖 房 业 and 役 Here's a recap from today's lesson. 1. This was the 3rd installment based on feng, which introduced 2 of the lesson's 5 new characters. The other 3 characters were helpful in making sentences with those 2. 2. Today's first character, containing the feng element, was second tone, fang, meaning a side room or separate living area for different family members in traditional Chinese homes with a central courtyard. When applied to specific rooms of a house and possible activities inside them, we have 书房 房间 房室 新房 and 厂房. When referring to an entire house, the common colloquial term in Mandarin is 房子, and the landlord is 房东. The combination 房屋 is preferred in more formal usage when indicating the buying and selling of houses, obtaining mortgage loans, and paying taxes on them. 3. The first character unrelated to feng was 盖, meaning to cover a container with a lid, or to complete a house by adding its cover, the roof. Expressions included 盖子 锅盖 盖起来 and 盖房子. When covering or including an entire generation, the phrase 盖世 can be used to mean unparalleled anywhere in the world, especially in the idiom 盖世奇才. 4. Our second character, containing feng, was created by adding it to the female radical 女 to become the new second tone character fang, meaning to harm, impede, or hinder. Apparently, this refers to how women are a distraction to men, hindering their work or studies. The most useful phrases included 合房 不房 and 无房. 5. To add the character for night, 夜, we needed to learn its phonetic element, yi, which we first encountered in 夹, meaning to squeeze or press from 2 sides. The primitive element yi actually refers to the armpits, but was soon borrowed to express the same connotations as 右 and 也, meaning also both or in addition to. Phrases with yi included 一股一金 一然 and 仿之一然. 6. The fourth tone character 夜 combines the phonetic yi with xi to indicate night as opposed to day. Expressions with 夜 included 日夜 半夜 夜间 一夜之间 过夜 夜景 夜生活 上夜班 夜班火车 夜班飞机 开夜车 and 夜猫子. Now you will find a short quiz on double, triple character, and longer expressions. Answer using only the characters learned so far. Thank you for watching and listening.